Hello and welcome to our worship this morning. I'm Reverend Wilma Wake and I'm delighted to be with you today. Please join me in lighting a candle and opening the Word. And let's start with a moment of prayer. Dear divine love and wisdom, thank you for your presence with us as we begin this new day. Help us to feel you in our hearts and to be able to express you with our lips and our eyes and our deeds throughout this day. Amen. You perhaps have been distressed as I have been by the events of these past couple weeks in Ukraine, with such serious battles underway and battles between freedom and totalitarianism. I have to say that for me, I have felt very connected to the battles over there. What comes to mind for me is that I was part of the post-war baby boom. I was born just after World War II ended and the troops came home and settled down and got married and started having children, of which I was one. And I grew up hearing Dad's stories of fighting in World War II and hearing of the great glory we brought to the world by defeating the Nazis, that we had gone to war to defeat totalitarianism, to defeat dictatorship, particularly through the Nazis. And I grew up thinking, and we did that. Our parents did that. Their generation did that. They defeated the Nazis. They defeated totalitarianism. And they have made the world safe for democracy. And now I and so many others in my generation are able to grow up feeling the gratitude for what our parents did in fighting in World War II. But now I have to rethink the way that I have looked at this and think, maybe I can't just assume that my parents' generation took care of it and now I don't have to deal with it. Maybe it's here again, or maybe it always was here, and maybe it's up to this generation. Maybe every generation in some way needs to stand up to totalitarianism and stand up for freedom. When I think about the importance of all of us and the importance of me accepting perhaps I need to play a role here, I find a great deal of inspiration in Swedenborg, because I know that Swedenborg always stood for love and wisdom in the world and stood up against any kind of totalitarianism or control of other people. And I think back to that time before and during World War II when there was such fighting against the Nazis. One of the people who was a very brave and effective voice against Nazism was Bonhoeffer. And one of the things I didn't realize about Bonhoeffer until the past couple of weeks when the Swedenborg Foundation published an article about Bonhoeffer and his Swedenborgian connections in his life. Well, Bonhoeffer I find as a very compelling figure prior to the war. He was a young man headed towards ministry as a Lutheran pastor. And he did get ordained shortly before the war began, and he was ready to develop a ministry, a Lutheran ministry in Germany, and he had spent some of his seminary time in the United States, and at Union Theological Seminary, and he had a very profound experience of actually worshiping in many diverse communities in New York and worshiping in black communities, coming to understand the importance of the energy moving towards the civil rights movement. And he took all of this back with him when he returned to Germany to begin ministry. But what happened just within a couple of years of his being ordained is that Nazis took over Germany and Hitler was in charge. And Bonhoeffer realized then that his primary task as a minister was to emphasize the God we worship, the God of what we would call divine love and wisdom, not Hitler, no human being. And Hitler was putting himself up to be the God, the one that all would worship, and we would all take our orders from this one ruler. And Bonhoeffer was one of the very loud voices saying, no, this cannot be. We owe our obedience and our commitment to divine love and wisdom to the Lord and not to any human being. Well, Bonhoeffer was not active in this work for very long because he was arrested and he was put in a concentration camp, and eventually he was put to death. But one thing that I find interesting is that his grandmother, I think it was a Toffel. And we have many Toffels in our Swedenborgian presence and past. And that he apparently had access to and apparently owned some of Swedenborg's works. So he may well have been influenced by the teachings of Swedenborg. And I think of that when I realize that we, my generation, your generation, we may be called upon to stand up for the divine love and wisdom as the center of our lives. And no dictator, no human being can take that freedom from us. I was listening this week to one of my favorite pieces of music, which is Anthem by Leonard Cohen. And there's so much in this music that makes me think of today and all that we're going through in the world. And I just want to read you a few verses. It starts, "The birds they sing at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away, or what is yet to be. Ah, the wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free." And this I see as kind of the chorus in this piece, which I find extremely moving. Ring the bells that still can ring. The holy dove, ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in. I find that so inspiring to think about the cracks in the world today, the cracks in freedom and peace and democracy. But yet, it's the cracks in the bells that let the light in. And we need to make those cracks larger and larger so that the sun can shine in and so we can all see what the cracks are that are out there in the world. So I wish you peace and blessings as you go about your day today. And remember, no matter how distressing the news of the day may be, that deep in our hearts we carry with us the divine love and wisdom that so inspired Swedenborg, who we believe may well have inspired Bonhoeffer, and all of those who stood up to totalitarianism through the Nazis of Germany. And whatever we need to do today to continue freedom, we will do. Have a peaceful day. Amen.